What do you do if a cop says, "I'm calling the K9 unit," while you're still sitting in your car? You have about 60 seconds to protect your rights before your own mouth starts helping the search. And if you say the wrong thing, you can turn a simple stop into a roadside disaster. Hit subscribe right now, because what I'm about to show you could be the difference between driving away free or getting dragged into a search you helped create. Like this video too, because when your heart starts racing, you need these words burned into your memory. If you think the dog is the biggest problem, think again. Your biggest problem is usually you. Your panic, your small talk, your nervous jokes, your fake explanations. Most people have no idea the stop can go bad before the dog even gets there. In the next few minutes, you're going to learn the exact sentence that blocks consent, the question that forces the officer to deal with the clock, the silence rule that stops you, and the one move you must make if they order you out anyway. Here's the trick. A dog sniff is not magic. A dog sniff works best when you give police extra time, extra words, and extra reasons. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. Here's the reality. When cops mention a K9, most drivers mentally collapse. You start talking faster. You start explaining where you came from. You start saying dumb stuff like, "There's nothing in there, search all you want." That feels harmless in the moment. It isn't. That is how your rights leak out one sentence at a time. If you know what to say in that first minute, you can stop making it easier for them. You cannot control what the officer wants to do. You can control what comes out of your mouth. And that changes everything. Let's talk about why this moment gets so dangerous so fast. A traffic stop is supposed to be about the traffic issue. License, registration, insurance, maybe a ticket, maybe a warning, then you leave. But once a K9 gets mentioned, the whole stop can start stretching. Maybe the officer keeps chatting. Maybe you get asked where you were yesterday, why you look nervous, why your hands are shaking, why there's a bag. You think you're calming things down, but you're actually handing over little bricks they can stack. Here's the reality. The dog is just the last part. The setup starts with your words. The first thing you do is lock down consent immediately. Here's exactly what you say. "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Word for word. Memorize that line. Say it calm. Say it once. Say it clearly. Then stop talking. That line matters because consent kills arguments later. If you give permission, the search becomes harder. Police do not need you to be happy. They do not need you to smile. They do not need you to like the question. They just need something that sounds like yes. That can be, "Go ahead." That can be, "I guess so." That can be, "I've got nothing to hide." That can even be you opening the door or trunk without a clear order. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court. They know the fight gets harder. Bad way. Most drivers say, "Yeah, sure, I don't care. Search it." Then the search becomes something you helped allow. Good way. Smart drivers say, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Then you keep your rights alive and force them to use their own legal reason. Let me show you exactly why this works. The law has long allowed searches when consent is voluntary. In Schneckloth versus Bustamante, the Supreme Court basically said if you freely agree, that agreement can make the search okay. Plain English? If you say yes, you may lose the chance to later say the search was wrong. That is why your first job is not to win an argument. Your first job is to shut the consent door. Now listen closely, because this is critical. Refusing consent does not mean you argue or pull away. This is 100% legal, but it must be calm. You are not resisting. You're not fighting. You're simply refusing permission. That's a huge difference. You can be polite and still protect yourself. In fact, polite is better. Polite makes the record cleaner. Polite makes the body cam cleaner. Polite makes you look smarter. Watch what happens when you do this right. The officer asks, "Mind if I take a look?" You answer, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Now the officer has a problem. If they search anyway, they need some other legal reason. If they don't have one, your later challenge gets stronger. Former police officers have confirmed this works. They know a calm refusal changes the whole tone of the stop. Without that line, your future lawyer may be stuck arguing over tone, gestures, and sloppy words. With that line, the record gets simple. You refused. You were clear. You did not volunteer. And that matters. Have you ever felt pressured to say yes just to look cooperative? Drop a comment below, because that pressure is exactly how people give away rights. They never meant to surrender. The second thing you do is force the timeline issue. Here's exactly what you say. "Officer, am I being detained for the traffic stop, or am I free to leave?" Those exact words. Say them after you have handed over your documents and after the basic stop business is done or clearly slowing down. Say it calm. Say it once. Then wait. Why is that question so powerful? Because canine cases are often about time. Not just the dog. Time. If the officer is still doing the normal traffic stop work, a dog sniff can be allowed. But if the stop is basically over and the officer drags it out, that can be illegal. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. In Rodriguez versus United States, the court said police cannot extend a completed traffic stop just to do a dog sniff, unless they have real separate suspicion. Plain English, they cannot keep you longer for the dog. Bad way. Most drivers say, "Why are you doing this to me?" Then the stop turns into a messy argument and the clock stays fuzzy. Good way. Smart drivers say, "Officer, am I being detained for the traffic stop, or am I free to leave?" Then the officer has to face the timeline and the reason for keeping you. This question also helps in a second way. It does not sound wild or threatening. It sounds focused. It tells the officer, the camera, and later the court that you understand. The stop is not supposed to last forever. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection. Now, very important, if the officer says you are not free to leave, do not drive off, do not roll away, do not test them, you stay put. Your win is not on the shoulder. Your win is in creating a clear record. Let me show you exactly what I mean. If they say, "No, you're being detained," you can follow with, "What is the reason?" Then stop talking again. You are not begging. You're making them state it. Watch what happens when you ask this at the right time. Either the officer ends the stop because there is no real reason to hold you, or the officer keeps you and now owns the choice. That matters because later the whole case may turn on whether the extra weight was legal. In Illinois versus Cabaz, the Supreme Court said a dog sniff during a lawful stop can be okay, if it does not add time. But Rodriguez drew the line when police stretched the stop just to get the dog around the car. Your question puts a spotlight on that line. And this is where people blow it. You think being nice means waiting forever without asking. No. Calmly asking if you're free to leave is not rude. This is 100% legal. It is one of the cleanest things you can say when the officer starts fishing for extra minutes. The third thing you do is stop feeding suspicion with your own mouth. Here's exactly what you say. "I choose to remain silent. I'll provide my documents." Word for word. If they start pushing about crimes, you can add, "I want a lawyer." Keep it simple. This one shocks people because they think silence looks guilty. That is not how the law works. Talking is what gets you in trouble. You start with one harmless answer, then comes another question, then another. Where are you headed? Who owns the car? Why were you in that area? Why are you nervous? Have you smoked recently? Is there anything illegal in the car? Are there guns, cash, weed, pills? You answer one thing, then you try to fix that answer, then you forget what you said. Now your own story becomes suspicious. Bad way. Most drivers say, "I'm just going to my cousin's house." Wait, no, my friend's place. I mean, we stopped for food first. Then every little mismatch gets used against you. Good way. Smart drivers say, "I choose to remain silent. I'll provide my documents, but I'm not answering questions." Then you stop building the officer's suspicion for them. Berghuis versus Tompkins matters here. The Supreme Court said silence alone is not always enough. You need to clearly say it. Plain English? If you want the protection, say it out loud. Do not just sit there. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because it makes your choice clear. Now let's make this practical for you. You still give your license, registration, and proof. If your state requires you to identify yourself in certain situations, you do that too. Hebel the 6th Judicial District Court said some laws can force you to give your name. Plain English? You handle the basic ID stuff. But after that, do not turn into a podcast. You do not fill silence with stories. Most people think talking makes them look innocent. It usually makes them look inconsistent. And inconsistent is enough to keep things alive. Former police officers have confirmed this works. They know the easiest driver to search is the one who never stops talking. Here's what that sounds like in real life. The officer says, "Where are you coming from?" You say, "I choose to remain silent. I'll provide my documents, but I'm not answering questions." The officer says, "Why are you nervous?" You say, "Nothing new." The officer says, "If you've done nothing wrong, why not talk?" You say nothing new. Same line, same tone, no extra words, no sarcasm, no smart remarks. That is how you stop the snowball. The fourth thing you do is comply with lawful orders without giving up your rights. This part is huge because drivers think stepping out fails. Not true. If the officer orders you out, you step out. But while you step out, you say this: "I will comply with your lawful orders, but I do not consent to any searches." Word for word. That line keeps your body safe and your position clear. Why does this matter for you? Because if you refuse to get out, you can turn a rights issue into a resisting issue, and that is a losing trade. In Pennsylvania versus Mims, the Supreme Court said officers can order a driver out during a lawful stop. Plain English? They can make you step out. So do not die on that hill. Step out, close the door behind you if you can do it safely. Just stay calm and keep your words clean. Bad way. Most drivers say, "I'm not getting out." And the stop gets hotter and the officer's safety excuse gets bigger. Good way. Smart drivers say, "I will comply with your lawful orders, but I do not consent." Then you avoid a new charge while keeping your rights on the record. Your goal is not to physically stop an officer. Your goal is to avoid helping them. If a trained dog later alerts, Florida versus Harris says that alert can give probable cause. Plain English? And once the dog gives that alert, your fight gets harder. So your job is to stop the extra consent, stop the extra delay, and stop extra words. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. Cabales says the dog sniff can be okay. Rodriguez says they cannot drag the stop out just for the dog without separate suspicion. Harris says a trained dog's alert can justify the search. You are fighting the setup. Drop a comment saying I'm still here, because the next part ties all of this together. Rodriguez vivos United States means the officer cannot stretch a finished traffic stop. Illinois versus Cabales means if the sniff happens during the normal time, it does not break the rule. Florida versus Harris means if a trained dog alerts, that alert gives a legal reason to search. Your tactics protect you from gifting permission and put the clock in the open. Your silence line stops you from creating the other reason, and your comply line keeps you safe. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection because it works with the law. None of these lines are magic spells. They do not guarantee the officer backs off. They protect the record, they protect your body, they protect your future challenge. Let me show you how this plays out. You get pulled over for a broken taillight. The officer takes your license and registration. Then the questions start. Wrong way. You panic, you laugh, you say you have nothing, and then keep talking. You explain where you came from and mention weird details about your friends or cash. Now the stop is packed with loose statements. You're helping fill the gaps. Right way. The officer says the dog is coming. You stay calm and use your script. You say, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Then you stop talking. If the regular stop business looks done, you ask if you're free to leave. Deciding those first 60 seconds determines whether you become the reason the stop gets bigger. Next week, I'm breaking down what to say when cops claim they smell weed. Subscribe now. Remember the play. Non-consent, force the timeline, stop feeding suspicion, and comply safely. You just need a calm voice, a short script, and the discipline to stop talking. Stay safe.